your journey through love has certainly been one that we're all interested in, including myself. And the last time we had a chance to talk, it was when we wrote our book, Your Man and Your Money, how to get them, how to keep them. You got them, and then there was a divorce. So, and I know your ex, and I love him like a family member, but I want to talk about you and your involvement in it.
I don't want to talk about that. I mean, everybody pretty much knows when your triggers and buttons are pushed, everything flies out the window. It almost felt like we were just walking blindfolded and just on different planets. In the end, we didn't know one another.
Ooh. Welcome. I'm so happy that you are here. We're going to get started with a question from an interesting inquirer. Dear Lynn, my girlfriend and I have been together for 10 years. We love each other very much. However, we've agreed to give each other space for 1 year before deciding if we're going to get engaged. I have no desire to date anyone, and my only focus is my last year in grad school. She expressed the desire to go out on platonic dates during our temporary split, but I'm not cool with that. We had a couple of arguments about it, but nothing was resolved. How do I reapproach the issue without escalating another conflict? Sad senior grad. Okay, sad senior grad. First of all, I want you to get glad, all right? Anything that you are afraid of losing, you have already lost. Now, here's my opinion. If you need some time apart from each other, just so you can get your head straight or focus, I understand that. I took some time away, but it wasn't because of the relationship, but I made a decision to move to another state 1 year before my husband and my family came because I needed time to get settled while my children finished their last year, or my daughter finished her last year in school back in the other state. Now, what that ultimately did is it gave me time to focus on the business every single day. So if I wanted to work in the office until 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning, or sometimes even spend the night, I didn't have to, have my husband and kids at home on my mind thinking I need to come home earlier. So that was good. So if you're in a relationship and you need some time so that you can focus on a specific goal, I understand that. But if it's to figure out if you want to get engaged, I don't know if that makes sense. I think in your gut, you know if you want to marry this person. I think in her gut, or, the other person's gut, they know if they want to be with you. And if you don't know whether you want to be with each other in a marriage, it's okay. But splitting up to figure it out, I don't think so. Now, on to the next part of your question. You want to have some time having platonic dates, or the other person wants to have platonic dates. Then it's not a date. What's a platonic date? Either you are dating because you are interested in another party or seeing if there's a romantic spark there, or you're not. Otherwise, you're just going out to eat with a friend. Now, if I have made the decision to not be with my mate for a year, for whatever reason, I'm not going out with somebody that could substitute. I'm not opening myself up to the possibility of something that I don't want to happen. So what it sounds like to me is you two need to decide if you're together and if you're not. And right now, if you're not together, if you decide to take some time off, take some time off and see what happens in a year. And remember, it's going to be love, not fear, that brings you back together. Okay, so you here.
I'm here. I'm
in the red room.
Yes.
Yeah. Red is for love. So,
right.
Guess what?
Yeah.
It makes sense that you will be here to talk about this topic. I have been blessed to talk about so many things. I mean, I blew up on social media because I was giving grammar lessons.
Right. Grammar police.
I just had to tell somebody today, if you type should of again,
right,
SHOULD OV,
yeah,
I'm going to it should have or should apostrophe VE.
Right.
What is wrong with the apostrophes? We are going from your to your. Come on now, put the apostrophes back in. But I said all that to say, I've talked about so many things, but I haven't talked about the real things, the things that people wouldn't know unless they know me, really behind the scenes, and being in the spotlight, being a public person, and certainly working with you and everybody else that I work with, who we love, Yo-Yo and Lil Mama and Russell and just so many others. I don't get a lot of time to just talk about everyday things, like what I like to eat or how I cook or how I've managed to keep a man
Okay.
for
a
28
very long
years
time.
with this attitude.
Girl, teach us.
Yes. So, but you're here, and your journey through love has certainly been one that we're all interested in, including myself. And the last time we had a chance to talk, it was when we wrote our book, Your Man and Your Money, How to Get Them, How to Keep Them. You got them, and then there was a divorce. So
let 'em go.
you let them. Okay, so the next book is Your Man, Your Money, How to Get Them, How to Keep Them. Let them go.
Look, if you need to. Or if it's just not working.
If it's not working, don't be tied to it.
Yeah.
And, I am a minister, ordained. And, I'm one of those people that I don't believe in counseling all the way to the end to stay together.
Right.
Even though I've been together with someone for 28 years, I believe if it's not working, be mature about it, accept it, move on, grow, and if it all works out, come back together. But you found love, you got married, you got divorced, you chilled out for a minute during the pandemic, and you found love again.
Yeah, what's interesting is I didn't feel like I was ready to co-author that book with you when you first invited me on, because I did not have love. I was open to it. And the funny thing is you haven't had this experience because you've been married for a trillion years, right? However,
a trillion. Jesus.
However, many of us who get in and out of relationships, we feel like we get in a relationship, oh, okay. Oh, so this is not working. Okay, so now I'm out of it and I know it's like I graduated up a little something because now I have a better understanding of something, or I have more clarity on a particular thing. And then at some point you're like, let me jump back in the pool. I'm ready to swim a little bit more. Then you get in another relationship and you realize, damn, I don't know that part. Or I know that part, but I don't really know how to exercise that part of relationship. And so it was one of those times where I felt like I was ready, and I met a really nice man, and he was, good, and we were both good, but we weren't, I don't think either one of us really understood the level of awareness, consciousness, commitment to giving to one another that is necessary in a marriage.
Well, and I know your ex, and I love him like a family member, a brother. You are my sister. But I want to talk about you and your involvement in it, because if we're going to talk about what he did, then I want to be able to let him speak for himself.
I don't want to talk about that.
Of course not. Of course not. But I just wanted to kind of make sure that we're staying focused on, because I think for each and every one of us, and I know, let's talk about even in business, but certainly in relationships. I remember something happening in our business, and it seemed as if the people who were involved in that happening, it seemed as if they were a problem. But the truth is, I made the choice. The truth is, I was the one responsible for the choices that I made. And so even though they may have done something wrong or bad or good or bad or indifferent, what I really, really realized, what was growth for me, is understanding that I made the decision. And I remember praying to God. And I said, God, what are we going to do? And so happened. And this person did this and this person did that. And God said, you picked them. Child.
Shut it down.
Shut me all the way down. So let's talk about you. And I want to ask this question. Okay. But go on and say what you're going to say.
Well, I was just going to say the whole beginning of the way that I prefaced going into that was, you're out in the world and you're living. So you think, okay, I'm single. This is great. I've learned a couple of things from my last relationship. And then you get into another relationship and you realize, okay, I know that I'm supposed to communicate at a moment like this, but it's not happening. I know all of the things you think you're ready to conquer. It's too late to sort of backtrack because you're in the next relationship.
Yeah.
And so when I said I don't think we were ready, I know I wasn't.
Okay, so you weren't ready. Tell us, what do you mean by that? You weren't ready.
I just wasn't ready for what it takes. You know, a marriage is, to me, supposed to be forever. It's when you've made the decision that you want to take on partnership in a way that nothing else matters, and you're ready to, you know, let ego die, and you're ready to give of yourself and care about their needs. And I think I was dealing too much in fear of something happening to me, too much to the degree that I wasn't looking out for him. And so
So what does that mean? Because that sounds very high.
so
What
it
does that
sounds
mean?
lofty.
Yeah, it's metaphors.
just-
Like as a rock. Is a what is it? Metaphoric phrase. We can't deal with metaphors today. We need to know what that means.
Light as a rock. It's explaining how heavy the young sister is.
Really is.
Right.
Just tell me you have. We need to know what the real deal is. So tell us
Right.
what that means.
Well, that means like if communication is shutting down from my man to me.
Okay.
Then
So what does that mean? That means
If they stop
something
talking,
is happening and the person is not talking to you.
something is
Okay.
happening. I'm saying what's going on, and they're saying nothing is going on.
Oh, I don't play that.
Right, I know you.
Oh, I don't play that.
Right.
See, you don't get to piss on me and tell me it's raining.
Right.
You don't get to do that. And I think a lot of times people are afraid to actually say what's happening. So if I ask you what's wrong and you acting, I can't use curse words here, even though we know that people who use curse words are
Stress-free.
Are stress-free. We're honest, and they say we the most loyal people on the planet.
Is that
but
what they say?
you know, because your mate will push you to that point where you want to say things, you want to do things. But my thing is, if you're acting like a butthole, and I say what's wrong, and you say nothing, oh no, that's not it for me.
Right.
Because now you got to explain to me why I feel this toxic energy from you. You got to explain to me. I know what it feels like when you are doting. I know what it feels like when you're paying attention to me. I know what it feels like when you're taking care of me. I know what it feels like to feel safe. And right now I don't feel safe. And you're standoffish. Well, I'm not saying anything. Exactly. And I think those are some of the things. So back to you. You're sensing that something is wrong.
You know what you just said made a lot of sense. It feels like there should be a class with exercises. And I imagine, you know, when people decide that they're going to get married and they go get counseling and things of that nature. But I'm not quite sure if counseling involves what it is that you just went through.
No, I would be nobody's counselor. They would not give me a license.
They wouldn't.
Yeah, if I had one, they would take it away. Because my practices are non-conventional, non-conforming, but they work.
Right.
Right? And I just have to say this as a blanket statement. I'm certainly not saying counseling isn't a good thing. I'm certainly not saying therapy isn't a good thing. But you can only get out of counseling and out of therapy what you bring to it.
Right.
And sometimes I think people go into counseling and into therapy and they're not bringing the truth. They're only bringing what the person who's there to help them can see in that moment. And what I get the benefit of doing with so many people who I know and love is I see you behind the scenes. So you can't hide that. So if you come and talk to me about it, you say, well, he did this. And I'll be like, but you did this too. What about that? And so I think what happens in relationships, we look at what the other person did. Remember, I said that earlier in a situation in my life, and it's been in my relationships too, where I'm looking at what they did, but God said, you picked them. And then God said, you ignored this and you ignored that. And you didn't exercise stewardship. You didn't speak up. You didn't, you know, so all those things. So back to you. So you're feeling something is not happening, or he's feeling a certain type of way.
Or
And
I'm
so,
feeling something is happening, but it's not being spoken about or...
And so how did you handle that now?
Oh, well, I ended up shutting down as well. Oh,
Okay.
okay. Well, if he doesn't want to discuss it, then I don't want to discuss it either.
Really?
Yeah, it was. It's interesting because I can only see it for all of what it was after the fact. While I was in it, it was more of me protecting myself against really something that didn't exist. So it was fear.
Yeah. Talk to me about, because I hear this a lot, not wanting to be confrontational. Talk to me about that.
Not wanting to be, yeah, wanting things to just be smooth.
And so ignoring the
Yeah.
big elephant in the room, no pun intended,
Right.
right? Ignoring the big elephant in the room. You think, did that make things smoother?
Only for a short time.
Short time, how long? 10 minutes?
Seconds.
Yeah, a few seconds.
Right.
A few seconds.
Right. But none of it makes sense.
Correct.
Right. So that is why when I say it wasn't clear to me until after I was able to really dissect and look through all of that. I mean, everybody pretty much knows when your triggers and buttons are pushed, everything flies out the window. Anything that makes any type of sense goes out on a limb, and you're dealing with just you and whatever that thing is that you're fearful of.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think for the most part, I didn't really have a good grasp on it until after. And see, with the new relationship that I'm in, I'm able to...
Give me we gotta
Oh,
work our
okay.
way up to that.
Okay.
This is juicy. We gotta stay right here in this juicy moment. So I get that. So no confrontation. You avoid the confrontation.
Well, minimal confrontation.
Minimal confrontation.
And what some would say is confrontation is just merely like if there is a boulder to be talked about,
Yeah.
you're talking about a little pebble.
Yeah.
Right.
You cannot fix what you will not face. And in order to have what it is that we want, and I really think it's something that I'm not going to say this generation, because I'm confused about who is
It's
what.
who?
I feel like we all in a bag of M&Ms. Baby, you don't know what you're going to get. Okay? You got the millennials, Gen X, Y, the people who I thought were millennials are not, and I don't know what I am. What am I? I'm not a baby boomer. What am I?
No, you're
I don't
not
know
a baby
who,
boomer.
what is where.
Right.
But I feel like in this moment, in this time, we want instant gratification. And the truth is, I heard something the other day. We were talking about money, which is what I always talk about. So I'm so excited about this conversation because we're not talking about that. But what happened, what I heard in that conversation was, work is the way to wealth. You got to work.
Yeah.
It's not going to drop in your lap. And we were having the conversation around maybe people my kids' age. I'm not saying my kids because they've been working since they were like 5-6 years old and they do whatever it takes. But, they don't want to work at the restaurant. They don't want to work at, shoveling
shop.
snow. Or they don't want to work at doing those things, a paper route or whatever it is, those menial jobs. But they gave you grit and they gave you had a sense of grind. People want more glamorous jobs. And the truth is you have to work your way to wealth. So if working your way to wealth, if we can take that and put it in a relationship, you got to work your way to peace. You got to work your way to harmony. But it has to be workable, right? So if you have $10 and you want to spend $20, it's not going to work. If you're in a relationship and you want peace and harmony, but you have someone who is toxic and unresponsive, it's not going to work. Having a response and having the conversation, i.e. the confrontation, at least gets you there. So Demetrius and I have been married for 28 years, but we have had some blowout fights. Like really, some moments. He's bigger than me, so, unfortunately, there are no physical fights. I shouldn't say unfortunately, but there are no physical fights.
Right.
Because I'm not about to hit that dude, okay?
Right. Yeah.
And thank God he ain't hit me.
Right.
If he did, he'd have to sleep with one eye open on a stick, okay? But anyway, that's a whole nother story. Because I'm not dealing with that.
Right.
We're not dealing with physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, financial abuse. There's so many kinds of abuse, and there's also all these kinds of infidelity that we'll get to. But we're talking about you and seeing that something was wrong and then shutting down. And in your shutting down, what do you think that did to the relationship?
Oh, it definitely put too much on it. It put too much for it to bear, because then it just became cyclic. It just was back and forth with neither one of us really saying how we felt. And then when we would get to a place to say how we felt, it would almost be a shock to the other person. Like, you mean all this time you thought that? Yes, all this time I felt that way. All this time, so it almost felt like we were just walking blindfolded and just on different planets. And we, in the end, we didn't know one another.
Ooh. Have you ever wondered how best to take care of your hair? Have you wondered why your hair responds to one kind of product, but your best friend's hair responds to another? Better yet, what about your siblings' hair? You came from the same parents, but your hair is so different. Well, guess what? MYAVANA is the world's first AI texturized hair care analysis system. Get a strand analysis and get personal recommendations for your hair care. So that's huge. Communication.
Yeah.
So one of the things that work for Demetrius and I, but it also works for you and I in our business relationship. It works for me and my children in our parent-child relationship. It works in every relationship, and that is to communicate quickly.
Yeah.
Our sister, Dr. Vicky, she always says this phrase I love: agree with God quickly. So when you see a truth, act on it. And so many times we'll see a truth, we're like, I'll wait. I'll wait till I'm ready. Ready for what? This is the truth. Act on it now. Because what happens when you don't communicate, everybody goes to their separate corners and they make up their own mind about what the truth is. And I've never seen a situation where two people who have failed to communicate actually had the truth. You have your story over here, he has his story over there, and when you come together, yes, it's a clash because neither one of you is thinking with what really happened and what's really, really going on. So it's interesting to hear you say that, you finally talk and then that was shock. After you talk and then you're shocked, did that make you feel better or worse?
Oh, it definitely made me feel better in those times when I was able to really say what I wanted to say. And I felt better when he had an opportunity to say what he needed to say, because then at least I knew the truth.
Yeah.
I knew that something was going on behind all of what was, prior to that moment told to me that nothing was going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's fast forward just a little bit to, I don't know if it's a fast forward, because you got married and then 3 years later, 2 years later, you were divorced. At what point did you realize that it was not going to work?
Workable.
Yeah.
When I didn't trust. When I
Okay.
didn't trust. Once, it's really hard to unfurl out of that. Not to mention, I have issues with displays of vulnerability anyway, just coming from Brooklyn and having to be strong. And so
what does that mean? You have issues with displays of vulnerability. What does that mean?
that means that I don't want to put myself in a situation to have my heart broken.
Ha ha.
And-
Okay, how's that working for you?
Well, back then I didn't know, I didn't know any better.
I'm not judging. I'm saying, how is that working for you? Because that's so many people don't want to put themselves in a position
Right.
to have their heart broken.
Right. So you know what it is? It's the phrasing of the question. How is that working for you? To my knowledge, it is gone.
Okay.
How did it work for me? It did not.
Okay.
It did not. I think if I were, able to go into that space of vulnerability with him, which I thought I was at when I said, yes, I do. However, when I began to feel like things were not being said or things were being hidden, I withdrew. And then I went right back to that place of trying to protect myself and my heart and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's something really important that you said. You thought you were vulnerable when you said, yes, I do.
I did. I thought I was there, like, oh my God, I don't want to live without this man. I want for us to be in one another's lives forever, and I'm willing and I'm open. Let's do this.
Yeah. And so, do you see what the responsibility is on your part to receive what it is that you're expecting at the point that you say, I do? Mm-hmm. What is it?
Well, just being open. The idea of not holding him accountable in the moments
There you
when
go.
I wanted to know what's going on. How are you feeling? Is something happening? Because I'm feeling like something is going on, but you're not sharing it with me. No, nothing is going on. Well, then we shouldn't have anything to say until you have something to say.
Until we talk about what we need to talk about, there's nothing to talk about. I've been posting that periodically for years, and I mean it.
Yeah.
And I don't care who you are.
Right.
Until we talk about what we need to talk about, there is nothing to talk about.
Right.
Now, we got a dead situation over here. You look crazy. I feel off. I have anxiety. I'm trying to go about my day, but I keep thinking back to this little nudging thing. My stomach doesn't feel right. And you want to talk about the weather?
Right.
You damn sure ain't getting nothing to eat. Excuse me. You think I'm about to cook for you, and you won't talk to me? No.
Right.
You ain't getting nothing else either. Now use your imagination to imagine what nothing else is. We got to talk about it. No, we got to talk about it.
Right.
Because that is the problem, that we keep sweeping things under the rug. Now, I grew up doing chores. Grandma B raised me. And when you did chores, you did real chores, not this stuff people doing today. So if you needed to clean up the living room, guess what? You got to remove all of the cushions off the couch. You got to vacuum all down in there.
You can't piecemeal.
You can't just, no, you got to move the cushions, because what do you find under there? Socks, money, food. Hopefully you don't find no animals.
Ooh, little rodent.
Girl, come on now. Dead. Don't even get me started. And then the rug, you got to move that. You can't mop up to the rug.
Right.
You got to move the whole rug, sweep the whole thing. And so what happens when we start sweeping things under the rug, eventually you find nothing but garbage there. You find dead rodents. You find molded food.
Yeah.
And that's what happens in our relationships. We keep sweeping things under the rug until it's no longer bearable. You can't live there anymore.
Right.
So you get to this place and you realize you didn't trust anymore. Did you trust yourself?
I can't say yes.
Wow.
I
That's
knew
good.
that this was a big job.
Yeah.
It was a big job, and that's why I said I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
Because if I were, I think I would have been able to handle myself differently within that relationship.
Yeah.
I would have been able to just. He often used to say, "Show up," like he wanted me to challenge him.
Oh.
And
Okay. All right. Okay.
Okay.
And you didn't want to challenge him. You want to sit around. Y'all, everybody, we know you're a legend. Everybody, MC Lyte so beautiful. You look like the fountain of youth. And you smile and you show up and you wave like Little Miss Rap America all over the universe. Like you in a beauty pageant. Everywhere you go. But life is not a beauty pageant.
No, you are absolutely right.
You got to show up.
Well, see that part is easy.
What part?
The part, all of what you just read
waving
down,
like Miss America,
easy.
like Miss Rap America.
What I was doing in a marriage is difficult. It's hard. People ought to know, and I know people.
No, but
say
I want to go back. You
Mm-hmm.
he said show up, which meant show up. Does that mean get angry? Does that mean challenge him?
He wanted me to challenge him on things, and
Most men do.
yeah.
The ones who don't,
Yeah.
throw them away. We ain't talking about them.
Okay.
But every man that I know that is happy, every man that I know that is at least trying to make it in a relationship, everyone that I know, and I have, Demetrius is wonderful, and I have a few friends who have very, very healthy marriages. It all looks the same, because not that everything works for everybody, but there are some basic foundational truths that exist. And generally, in a relationship, you've heard this term, happy wife, happy life, and it doesn't mean that the woman just makes all these insurmountable rules or dictates or dominates, but a man wants to see his woman happy, and a man wants to be held accountable when he's not being accountable. And, I have this phrase I say whenever I do get to speak publicly about relationships. I said, if you can just understand these two things in a relationship, men are irrational and women, we're a little crazy sometimes. We say, honey, you want something to eat? We'll get into argument. He'll say, you want me to bring you something to eat? Mm-mm. But let him come back without some food. Oh, baby, it's about to be World War VII. Okay? I know I said no, but you should know that I didn't mean no. I only said no because
we was in the middle of an argument.
Yeah. Don't be asking me if I want something to eat because I'm hungry, right? So it's those kinds of things. And then there are these things, and you've been around sometimes when my husband will say something and everybody just look at the sky. Yeah, because it don't sound right. It's a little off, right? So if we understand those things about each other and we don't get so bent out of shape over them, he knows how to overlook my craziness. I know how to overlook his irrational things or his irrational things. I think I just created a new word. You know how I hate that when y'all say conversation.
It's okay.
Can we talk? Why y'all coming up with a new word? And comfortability. I'm just digressing here for a moment. Don't say comfortability no more.
I hear you.
Just say comfort.
Right.
Is your comfort? Do you have any comfort? Comfortability. Y'all be putting all these words together. People don't even know how to use the little bitty words.
Actionable words.
Yeah.
Irrationability.
Miss had to study the dictionary when she was 8 years old so she could go out. We don't know all those words. Right. Talk to us in regular, small syllable English. But no, we had to get to those things. So you didn't have trust. You didn't trust yourself. What should you have trusted more about yourself in your marriage?
My gut.
Tell me about that.
Just, if I felt like something was off, then something was off.
Yep.
And I should have trusted myself enough to address those things with confrontation and also be okay with walking away from the whole marriage in an instance if what I was being told didn't fit within the list of things that were acceptable that he and I had agreed upon for marriage.
I call those non-negotiable principles. There are a few non-negotiables. There are a few non-negotiable principles in every relationship. And I advise everyone to take a look at what that means for you. For me, how did you find Demetrius or how did he find you? Because my list was whole. It wasn't about the kind of car he drove. It wasn't about what school he went to. It wasn't about many of the things that women who have my quote unquote pedigree would say is acceptable. It was love God. It was be hardworking, trustworthy, respect and love me, and love your mama. That was my list. And if I found those 5 qualities, it didn't matter if you were a blue collar worker, a white collar worker, an entrepreneur, had your own business, as long as you were going to do what? Because hard working was in there. So it means you got to work hard, right? Trustworthy was in there. So those non-negotiable principles, I don't do well with betrayal on any level, for anybody, for anything. Betrayal in business, betrayal in an intimate relationship. I was in a terrible relationship in my late teens, early 20s. Almost took me out of here. Like I didn't want to be here anymore. And so, I'm thankful that I was not only able to move past that, but it taught me to be very, very clear, like you just said. And so I opened myself up to love again. But I chose to be vulnerable. I chose to give, and I chose to ask for what I wanted. And I chose to give what I said I was going to give. And so those non-negotiable principles are very important. And then I think the other thing too, something about what you just said, in terms of the relationship, being open to understanding what's new. We get older over time.
Check in.
We check in. What's happening. You're a public person, a very, very public person, known all over the world. And so that comes with some challenges. So what would you say to the person who does not believe that love is possible after going through a divorce, and suffice it to say, you were hurt.
Yeah,
You were
absolutely.
in pain, and so was he.
Right. I just think it took time to heal. It took time to reconcile, not just with what took place in the relationship, but all of the things that didn't. Because when you,
For example,
well, when
what
you,
didn't happen?
we didn't go off to Saint Tropez. We didn't spend time with our families all together during Thanksgiving. It's just a bunch of things that you envision happening, or growing old together. We didn't do it. We didn't. We didn't get to the point where we could sit in rocking chairs on a porch and be old enough to take care of one another as we grew old. So it was a lot of letting all of that go. Then it's the phase of what could I have done? What should I have done? If given more skills and more confidence in myself within a relationship, what more would have happened? How far could we have gone if I would have had, not only the education, but also the will to instill those things, or, be able to take the action that I knew to take but hadn't taken.
Yeah.
So all of that, I had to heal from all of that. And then, also, I asked for the divorce. So it was also the guilt of pulling out of a situation, leaving him hanging. Because, some people will stay in a marriage no matter how bad it gets. No matter, how they're not connecting.
And how did you come to that point? Asking for the divorce.
I knew
what was happening. How did your soul, heart, mind feel?
That I couldn't trust.
Yeah.
I couldn't trust. And I knew that once I got to that point of not being able to trust and not having it in me to rebuild the trust. Because I felt like I just did not trust him. So it wasn't, and I didn't trust it or us or any of it.
Okay.
I thought that we would just not be good for one another. Because a husband deserves to have a wife that trusts him. And I was no longer that woman.
Wow.
So I had to go through all of those, segments of healing.
Yeah, but during that time, but before you came to that decision, was it something that you just you figured out in your head? Were you praying? Did you seek God?
I was praying. I was meditating. I was talking to you. I was talking to my mom. I was talking, to a few of my really close friends, and it's pretty, I guess, textbook for some women who are going through in relationships, whether it's their fault, anybody, whoever's fault it is, but you sort of are moving through this thing the best way you know how. And it's not until you talk to other women when they say, no, he didn't.
Right.
No, you didn't do what? You did, and you hear like, oh, wow. Okay, so I wasn't just by myself on this one.
Yeah.
I was thinking the right thing.
Yeah.
I should have trusted my gut. I
Yeah.
should, all of those things came into play. And I think, with time, they say time heals all things, or at least makes them feel better. And so coming out of that, I realized that I called in what I was at that time, or what I was willing to give at that time. And God just gave me a new page to look at and to explore. And without looking for anything or anyone, I just dealt with myself and continued to, better myself. And then here comes someone special.
Woo! Okay, wait, hold on. Thank you for stopping by. Please like, share, and subscribe.